Something is wrong with this May. Not a little wrong. Not just unusually chilly for a spring afternoon. Wrong in a way that has forecasters pulling up old records and struggling to find a comparison. We just came out of one of the harshest winters in recent memory. People were exhausted. They were counting the days to warmth. And now, the cold is back, deeper, wider. And this time, it has no intention of leaving. Meteorologists are now saying, quietly, carefully, that this could go down as the coldest May in 20 years. And the most unsettling part? The models show no end in sight. And let's go back just a few weeks. Winter had finally released its grip. A few warm days rolled in, back to back. People stepped outside, lifted their faces to the sun, and exhaled for the first time in months. Restaurants started filling up outdoor patios again. Kids were back on the grass. It felt, finally, like the season had turned. But underneath all of that, two massive air masses were quietly moving toward each other. One warm, one cold. And they were on a collision course, stretching from the Great Plains all the way to the Atlantic coast. What happens when those two worlds collide? You don't get calm weather. You don't get a gentle seasonal transition. You get violence, severe thunderstorms, soaking rains. Cold fronts are crashing through. And underneath it all, a cold air mass that simply refuses to be pushed out. That is the story of this week. That is the story of this entire month. But what is actually driving all of this? And why does it feel like it could last well beyond May? Picture a line drawn across the middle of the country. To the west of that line, warmth, dry skies, a season behaving itself. To the east, a completely different world. Temperatures are running far, far below what May should feel like. Gray skies, cold winds, a season that never quite arrived. And right along that line, right where those two air masses are pushing against each other, this is where the atmosphere turns dangerous. Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama. These states are sitting directly in that zone right now. The Storm Prediction Center has them highlighted. Enhanced risk, slight risk, marginal risk. Those words on a forecast map are not technical jargon. They are a message to real people in real homes. Make a plan before the sky turns green. But the storms, as dramatic as they are only one side of this story. Because while the southeast watches the radar nervously, there is a quieter emergency unfolding further north. In southeastern Virginia, in the Carolinas, the ground is not wet from too much rain. It is cracking, dry, hardened, desperate for water. One forecaster described the last time he saw conditions like this. He had to reach back years in his memory to find a comparison. A summer so dry, he said, the ground literally split open. And that same feeling is here again right now. Rain systems appear on the forecast maps. People watch them approach. And then they shift. They shrink. They deliver almost nothing, week after week. The soil gets harder, the wells get lower, and the forecast maps keep teasing rain that never quite lands. So what happens when all of that changes at once? When the storms finally arrive and they do not stop, Wednesday does not ease in gently. A cold front pushes down through the mid-Atlantic. Another surge of cold air presses in behind it. And to the south, the atmosphere is already unstable and loaded. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. An enhanced severe weather risk is active. That is 3 levels above general thunderstorms. That is the kind of risk level where emergency managers start making calls. If you're in those states on Wednesday, you treat every watch and warning like it was written for your neighborhood. Because it was. Thursday brings something different, something much needed. Soaking rain pushes deeper into the southeast, the Carolinas, parts of Virginia. Finally, water reaches the ground that has been begging for it. But even as that rain falls, the cold is already reassembling itself to the north. By the weekend, the pattern snaps back into place. Warm in the west, cold in the east. The wall goes back up. Saturday brings scattered thunderstorms across a massive stretch of the country, east of the Rockies, popping and firing like a midsummer afternoon. Except the air behind it all is anything but summer. And then comes Sunday. A cold front, stronger than the ones before it, crashes into the eastern half of the country. Severe weather, heavy rain. The full weight of the storm season compressed into a single powerful system. Monday, still cold in the east. Midweek next week, another system pushing through, one after another, like waves that have been building for weeks and are now finally crashing ashore all at once. But here is something that forecasters have been noticing. Something hiding in plain sight inside every single one of these forecast maps. There is a pattern behind the pattern. Every day, as meteorologists look at these maps, the warm west, the cold east, the precipitation funneling up through the deep south and the coast, they are seeing a signature they recognize. El Niño, the climate force that reshapes entire seasons, that bends the jet stream thousands of miles off course, that sends warmth arcing over the top of the country, and cold diving down through the south and east. And right now, this is exactly what the maps look like. Not a little bit like El Niño, almost textbook. which means this is not just a cold snap. It is not a week of bad weather followed by recovery. It is a pattern, a deeply entrenched, stubbornly persistent pattern that could define not just the rest of May, but the months beyond it. Now consider what that means for the record books. Most May temperatures over the last 2 decades have run above normal. Warm springs, comfortable temperatures, nothing unusual. But this May, with temperatures running far below normal across the east, and the models holding that signal through the 19th, possibly beyond, this May is on a path to be the outlier, the one people look back at, the one that gets a footnote in the climate record. And then, right at the very edge of the forecast models, right at the last frame of the last model run, something appears, a shift, barely visible, almost hesitant. Around May 20th, the cold in the east begins to relax. A hint of warmth tries to push back in from the west. Forecasters see it, they note it, but they do not celebrate it, because they have been here before. A glimmer of change appearing at the tail end of a model run, only to quietly disappear the next day, replaced once again by the same relentless, immovable cold. The pattern has earned the right to be taken seriously, and until it breaks consistently, for several days in a row, it is not broken. This is where America's weather stands today. A cold that will not leave. A drought that has quietly deepened for weeks. And now, a series of storm systems is finally arriving, carrying both the relief people have been waiting for and the danger they need to prepare for. Families in Alabama are tracking the radar this week. Farmers in Virginia are watching the forecast and hoping, really hoping, that this time the rain actually reaches them. And meteorologists are watching a pattern that may well write itself into the history of this month. If there is one thing this week demands from all of us, it is attention. If you are in the southeast, know your county's alerts. Know where you go if a warning is issued. Do not wait until the storm is visible to take it seriously. And if you want to stay ahead of all of it, subscribe right now. We are here every single day, tracking every shift, every system, every update, so you always know what is coming before it arrives. Hit the bell, stay informed, and stay safe out there.